Hello, this is the first of my fireside chats, and I was slightly inspired by my LiveJournal friend Jordan Fish, who live journals under the name Fish with Issues, and he had a really inspiring series of vlog, in which he sings along with songs on headphones, and all you can hear is him doing his very bad impersonation of, say, Joanna Newsom. He goes on a little bit long, actually, in the third one, but I thought it was very interesting, and he had awarded himself license. He had balls. I, being the cerebral person that I am, I'm going to just talk about ideas and things, and here I am in front of my video fireplace. This I made myself because I went on Sunday to the children's farm in Kreuzberg, and there's a beautiful cafe there with a beautiful fire. Little Turkish children were sitting reading children's books in front of it, and in the original recording that I made, the fire isn't crackling like that. It's actually there's lots of voices and things in the background, but I've found a crackle sound effect on the internet and put it next to this. So actually the last 2 evenings we've been sitting in front of this fire, Hisai and I, with this playing all night, and I just thought, isn't that ironic that television, our TV set here that used to be the main window into the world, as Marshall McLuhan would have said, has now become a fireplace. It literally is no longer the main conduit of information into our house. We actually tend to sit there watching YouTube. Like last night we watched a big documentary on lomography, which was a BBC documentary, so it was made with television money and license payers' money, but it was completely, the computer had become the television. And that's partly because I have this computer screen now that's bigger than my TV screen. It's a 24-inch screen, and also I've learned how to zoom it so that you can frame video windows very effectively. And yeah, so we sit there watching YouTube, and but what this means, because of course you can't get access to the television, you can't really change it, you can't pull the content you want when you want it. So if I switch over to the computer, it means that, well, it's a much more malleable medium. I can make television as easily as I can watch it. Just about. I mean, I also just discovered yesterday this thing called Quicktime Broadcaster, which is a free download from Apple, and it's just a component of QuickTime that allows you to record your video direct to disk. So here I'm using it to capture the feed from the iSight camera built into my screen to my hard disk, and to make a video. I have a DV camera, but it's just fiddling with cables and plugging it in is actually a bit of a hassle. So it's a disincentive to... I think for blogging you need immediacy. The difference between, say, LiveJournal and having a website with HTML pages that you code yourself is that it's just that bit more of a hassle to code the pages yourself. So when you can format things very easily, you tend to get into the habit of throwing up content daily. And that's crucial. So I think with video, the easier the tools are to use, the better. So, you can see my rabbit. Oops, is that the right side? Yeah, here he is. Oh, he's very angry. He doesn't like being held. I was going to talk today about Fuck Forever, which is a record by Baby Shambles. And at this point I'd like you to pause me in this video and click on the video underneath, which is a YouTube video, Baby Shambles Fuck Forever. Okay, you're back from Baby Shambles. You've unfrozen me and unpaused me. I don't know, I feel a lot of very conflicting things about this. It sums up what's best and worst about Britain, this video. I've really had no interest previously in Pete, what's his name? Donahue, I was going to call him, Doherty. Very little interest in his previous band. I saw a documentary with his his bandmate Carl Barrett with showing the guy from Adam Green, showing Adam Green around London. And as I'm a big fan of Adam Green, I watched that. Much less of a fan of oh God, what was Carl Barrett and Pete Doherty's band called? I've got a mental block on that. You see, my age is showing here. And they were called the Libertines. And also, I've just been watching The Rakes this morning, and not the Editors, but there's a whole generation of these British bands. But basically, they condemn themselves to irrelevance in my eyes by sounding like punk rock. And of course, this also is a function of my age, because I am old enough to, in a Blade Runner-esque way, like the dying replicant, I can tell you that I was there when audiences habitually and regularly spat on bands. Even Simple Minds, early Simple Minds gigs, the audience would spit on the band, and I remember Jim Kerr saying, "Spitting's for dogs." Obviously not very amused. I've never been spat on as Momus, I must say. No audience. That's something that is incredible. The whole ambience of gigs can be changed by whether you get spat on and whether you're completely sodding wet, not only with sweat, but with spit at the end of an evening, and you're liable to catch hepatitis B or C. It genuinely was an occupational hazard for musicians in the 70s, from 76, 77, 78. It was still going on in 78 when I started going regularly to gigs. And the Sex Pistols were very exciting, and punk rock was very exciting. I was much more into the arty end of it, obviously, but I've had tea with Paul Cook, the drummer from the Sex Pistols. I've seen the Sex Pistols live, although admittedly on their reunion tour in the 90s. I feel a certain body type. I was going to say collaboration. Body type. Oh God, I've got a block on the word. A sort of. I feel something in common with Johnny Rotten, basically, that he is an ectomorph and I'm an ectomorph, and not so much with his rage, because I don't have that cancel flat experience of Britain. I have a privileged and bourgeois experience of Britain, and mostly places outside of Britain. So punk rock is not something I personally would have invented. Might have been much more into inventing something like music as silence, like John Cage's ideas, or fires that are actually video fires, inventing all sorts of quirky and eccentric things like that. Oh, solidarity is the word I was going to say. I don't really have much solidarity with the British working classes, and this is why my Marxism, my student Marxism, was doomed to failure, because I think there are enormous class hurdles to overcome, and solidarity with the kind of lumpen proletariat in Britain implies throwing away all sorts of gains you've made, gains which my mother would call civilization or something like that. I'm not sure I would use the word in that partisan way. I prefer to use it in its broad screen way. Anyway, this is not at all like a Jordan Fish video cast. I should be singing along to a song or something. But what I'm trying to say is that I actually can identify a lot with Malcolm McLaren. I interviewed him in Paris in 2002, I think, and he spoke for about 10 hours. He just kept drinking red wine, and he was, in a sense, on autopilot, repeating things he'd said 100 times before. He was also writing his autobiography, and I don't know when that's going to appear. He is still writing his autobiography, half a decade later, and but he's very, very interesting. Even when he's on autopilot, I think his ideas are very interesting. One of the few people, with Eno and with a couple of others, who really have seized my imagination with their ideas. And I think he was, although it's infuriated Johnny Rotten, he was quite right to terminate punk rock as quickly as he did with, say, the Great Rock and Roll Swindle. I think that was a correct decision on his part, because it became very rapidly the worst kind of hooliganism that you just would have seen at Bedlam, or, it goes back to all sorts of things in Britain's history. There's just this innate tendency of the English in particular to be dissolute hooligans and to spit on everything. And McLaren was great at, I mean, Fuck Forever, first of all I should say, Fuck Forever is a direct lift from Jamie Reid and Malcolm McLaren's themselves direct lifting of French situationism. And of course there's a great tradition of French hooliganism, and it's not unconnected with art. And if you look at François Villon or Pantagruel, and if you look at the Rabelais, people like that, the medieval tradition of just basically getting very muddy and filthy, and or even de Sade, there's a definite sense of rip it up and destroy running through French culture as through British culture, maybe even more in French culture actually. So I mean that is exciting, and it's quite exciting to see if you look at the live video, which I've just linked to with a hot link under the studio video for the Baby Shambles track. There's a live rendition of Fuck Forever in a club in Shoreditch, and it's exciting because it looks like everything's collapsing. He looks puffed up and alcoholic, but there's a sense of spontaneity and of being at an event. But the thing is, it's so exhausted because first of all, he looks terrible. I think he looks terrible in the video for Fuck Forever. He's got this pasty round face and kind of really looks haggard because he's just been drinking too much. White and haggard, and his hair's all streaky and looks incipiently balding, and it's not attractive. And but at the same time, there's a beautiful little musical motif that comes in where he starts singing along in the background with the guitar line, which sounds a little bit like something the Clash might have done, or early Clash records had something lyrical about them in the very thrown back, reverbed kind of backing vocals. But again, this is all stuff that happened in 1976, and we're almost at 2006, so, it's what, 30 years, 78, 90, yeah, it's 30 years ago. Forever. Also, the Union Jack being used in the video, they're bullfighting each other with Union Jacks. The whole idea of the foreverness of a certain kind of punk rock ideology, McLaren was absolutely right to squish it as early as he did, I think, because it's, as I've said in my writings, I think the British people tend to prefer the malady to the remedy. And I think punk rock was very good at expressing the malady of Britishness. All the complaints and the grumbles and the nihilism, the mean, petty backbiting. But as soon as you start proposing the remedy, i.e. John Lydon going off and forming Public Image Limited, which was a very arty krautrock band, basically, and then Malcolm McLaren going off and doing Sexy Eiffel Towers, 30, 60, 90, Go, all the rest of the stuff he did with Bow Wow Wow, and then the New Romantics, then he gets much more into his French roots, his French influences, which of course have led him to live in Paris permanently. And British people turn their backs on that. It doesn't have the wide-scale success that punk rock has. So, I would love to see a figure as iconic, a word I hate, as Pete Doherty drawing on, say, Annabella Lewin, this multiracial Briton that's an Asian-oriented Britain that's reflected in Bow Wow Wow. Or, Waltz Darling, or these more bourgeois, more accommodated projects that McLaren went on to do, where he would, or, Duck Rock, which is a great record, where he went to New York and picked up some influences there. These things are people looking around for the remedy, not trying to express the malady. But of course the malady has national roots. The remedy is something you seek in New York or in Paris or Tokyo, wherever it is. And therefore it no longer has a national resonance. And that's the tragedy of all these correctors and all these people who try to improve life rather than simply express its frustrations. And in fact, even bands like Radiohead, I would say, are successful because they're not going too far from the malady. They're not going too far into the region of the remedy. I think that's all I have to say, and that's probably way too much for your bandwidth. So this is my first vlog, fireside chat, and make of it what you will.